So when you're building out a DIY expedition camper, how do you get about 20 extra cubic feet of storage for lightweight out of season clothing or sleeping bags or luggage, things like that? Well, we're going to do that and go into it with these over cab storage boxes on my DIY expedition camper. The interior's been getting built out. It's getting close to being finished with a lot of little details. The exterior is pretty much done other than some final little details here too. And it's been pretty exciting building this out and advancing it. And you probably saw in my last video these over cab storage boxes, and there's a special treat with these that comes up near the end. So hang in there and watch. It's going to be pretty exciting about that. But there's a lot of work to making things happen, and it starts all with some custom storage boxes. And if you remember back to my earlier videos, I had a bunch of under camper storage boxes made up by Highway Products, and they were great. Nice lightweight aluminum. The welds were great, but these welds on these cab roof storage boxes that I drew up and had made up for me by a different manufacturer just weren't that great. The welds were really pretty messy. There's a lot of debris, and this really took to me, and I had to do a whole lot of grinding to clean these up. And it took about an entire day with a flap wheel on a grinder, and thankfully a cordless grinder, to clean down all these welds. See how nice and smooth this is relative to, like, see down here we got a big bead sticking out on the weld here that I got to still grind down, right? And some more of those, working it down here, and you can see quite a bit I've taken off here. That's where the wheel really comes in. You can see it's still very rough up here. It tells you how rough this bead weld was. So I'm going to keep kind of smoothing that out a little more now that I've at least taken the bead down, smoothing that out. Keep going kind of around and also cleaning up on the doors. And then I got to also take a look at the inside here. And you can see I've already sanded this down, just taking a light sanding just to scuff it up so the paint really seals, but I got to really kind of cover all of the bases here. That's the sander will come in handy there, but it does not really break down these bad welds. Finally, after several hours of biting my hand to death, I got these welds pretty well tacked down, and then it was time to start sanding, and there's a lot of sanding to do on these surfaces just to get them all a little scuffed up to take the paint that I'm about to put on. So I cleaned these up, brought out the paint that I had left over from the camper build that matched the size of the camper, and due to a mix-up I received black instead of tintable, so that changed my plan a little bit. So I got the primer out and started priming these up. These things still smell, even though they've been airing out all night. You can see all the dust that's collected on them. Even a little bit on the inside. You can see I really can't get that back wall very well because I can't reach all the way in there. Here's if I reach about as far as I can. I'm still about almost a foot away. So can't quite reach in that back wall. The spray can doesn't quite reach it. But at least I've got, you know, some acid etch and some primer on these. And now they're set up in the sun. I'm going to blow them out with some compressed air and get all this dust and stuff off it and paint ideally just this top portion white. A little bit overspray is going to be fine because I'm going to then paint the sides and the front a light gray, and the back and the bottom ideally a darker gray, just because I have some of that available. And then the inside, all really nice bright white. It'll protect the aluminum from any kind of rusting or whatever, protect my equipment from any kind of things that may get onto it, like any rust or corrosion or something may get on it, some oxidation. Really, it's all aluminum. And just give it a nice bright finish so I can see things inside a little better, because it's obviously a little bit hard to see in there. So let's give this a shot. So yes, after basically blowing them off with compressed air to make sure they're nice and clean, easiest way to get all that kind of dust off from the primer and everything else, went ahead and donned my Tyvek suit and got my mask on. And even this full breathing mask wasn't quite enough for all the fumes that come out of the inside there, as I'm spraying custom coat bed liner in a very bright white. So it's very well protected, protecting both the metal as well as giving a nice bright white finish and a smooth finish for all the gear that I'll be putting up in there. Alright, so I have to get these two big custom-made boxes up there. And so let's go show you a little more what I have to do here. It's a little bit more tricky than it seems, as almost everything is on any project, but especially I say this project and how I'm doing it. But there's going to be two of them, one on each side, but they're going to basically be just a small little gap right down the middle. They're going to each slide out individually, and then I'll access into the door on this side here. So I can stand up, as I can do right now, on this platform like this, and I can access all this stuff up here without having to have a ladder to come up the side to get up there and get in, try to pull stuff in and out top of ladder and reach way in. These are deep. They're 36 inches deep and 36 inches wide. So it's a big space to cover this, and it's a little bit wider and deeper than the rack. The rack is only, well, these pieces 24 inches deep. So the boxes are going to come out to about here. So that way I can get a little more of an aerodynamic fairing and also get a little more shade for the roof and protection from hail and stuff like that. And also over the back where the pass-through is, give a little protection there, same thing, also a little more sun protection, everything else. Also they're a little bit wider and also get more storage, of course. And I'm going a little bit wider in the cab. And because why? Because two things. One is the cab reaches out quite a bit more. You know, you got the fender flare and stuff, you add about another 2 or 3 inches. It also has a little bit of a camber to it, so it does add a little bit more as it goes out. And also, but first, most part is because really the camper, of course, extends out a couple of inches on each side past the camper. And so the box is going to extend a little bit more too, to give a little more of a both wind protection, so I'm not slamming wind into this big front wall here. I'm letting it really hit those corners and curve around. And also branches and things too when passing through low-lying branches, because these boxes will be angled up at a 45 degree and then just kind of flatten towards the back to allow that wind to kind of curve out. And you can see if I go to the rooftop profile there, it is very flat, and that was of course intentional, where everything is basically very low. The skylights are just about the highest thing there, and a couple of the antenna stuff, but everything's basically at the same height. I got everything as low as I could possibly get it. So again, tree branches stuff don't get hung up. I have more of an aerodynamic slope to keep this thing more fuel efficient. Anyways, I've got to measure out, there's all these gaps, the width of these, and it's starting from the middle and working my way out, and I need a slide to mount exactly down the middle, or pretty much almost down the middle of each of these two, and then my linear actuator that is going to hold the boxes in place and then allow them to electrically be pushed out. So that way it's a really easy mechanism to pull them in and out and not have to be up here trying to hustle with a latch and stuff and figure out how to do that latch and make it all watertight and then have it locking and all those other things. And once they're up, I think I'll be able to explain more why and how it was done that way. I don't need a ladder, by the way, to get up there. I can step here. You see I've already put grip tape down in these places. So I got my drawing and my different dimensions here all written out. I have my different materials here, even a calculator to do calculations of dimensions and my different materials. So then I'm going to mount the slide. There's one of the slides. So I'm going to mount these slides, 2 of them, one there, about one here. The rest is kind of overhanging the edge of the cab's about here, and this will overhang the side there. Protects those side windows from sun, give them some sun protection. Also, again, keeping snow and hail and dirt and rain and stuff like that off those side windows as well. Tree branches from smacking into them, so gives that protection. Doors on the inside here, but they are aluminum boxes, but I can get them painted both in the inside with bright white, so things are visible, and then bottoms and tops. This top whole portion, or the visible portions on the side and top, are really matching the upper portion on the cab and the camper, so it all blends in. The bottom, I've just used up some kind of spare paint that I had, and same here really on the doors, because that was just the colors I had left. I have to buy more paint, and so it's a little bit overspray, but it doesn't really matter. It's on the bottom, and it's got several coats, so it's nice and well protected from those tree branches and stuff. They'll likely rub up against the side, and if that's the case, then I can always put like a aluminum angle, you know, thin little aluminum angle as a wear strip or something along there. And you see there's a little bit of flat spot on the top, and then that way the wind has a chance to kind of taper out as it hits the roof, and so I don't get as much turbulence across the roof. And also just give a flat spot. I can also mount things there if I need to, but at least I have the ability to do that. So anyways, I'm getting these things measured out. I got to make sure to get them perfectly measured, because I'm going to mount these slides before they get hoisted up onto the roof rack, because trying to mount the boxes to the slides up there will be far harder, but they'll have to be perfectly parallel, or else of course they're not going to slide out well. So that's going to be the tricky part, is getting them all perfectly parallel here and up there, so everything slides smoothly and well. These heavy duty slides are going to lay flat like this, so I keep the profile low, so I'm not adding more height above that roof rack, or at least trying to minimize the box having some big gap up there in there, so they're going to lay flat. And these are also very strong slides, and we'll handle the full 30 inches of push out on that. And the same with the linear actuator, single linear actuator mounted basically in a position like this. I'll show you obviously it's all done, but that's what's got to be, and I got to figure out the mounts here in the end and how I'm going to attach these to the box and all that stuff. Pretty tight, and tight spaces to fit all that. All right, decision 1,437,293. is what we're doing at the very moment. And that is, my slide is 29.5 inches long. These are 24 inches long. And so my slide's going to be longer than these by about 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches. The box is 36, so it's going to hang over both the front and the back. It's basically going to be, there's 36. The design is, I think, about like that is where the box will be. And so that puts, if I start the slide there, I want to start it probably about 3 inches forward. Okay, let's give that a shot. It's a little more tricky than it may seem. So let me show you what I've done here. But then that can extend back so I can create my mount for the rear here. So that's what that's doing. So I know that's probably a whole lot without showing you, and I will show you, of course, this in conclusion, but that allows me to get basically now the box slides with the most mount holes into the deck, the roof deck, and the slides to have the most, well, they'll have all their holes into the box, and I think they'll have all their holes actually into the deck with the one on the piece that extends back. And so it allows me to kind of get everything positioned hopefully just right, because really all the force is going to be at the back when this is out. It's going to be cantilevered out. So that's where all the force is going to be. This front one's only a few inches back. Yeah, there's a bit of wind resistance or something that could create some lift, but there's going to be so many bolts here it's not going to get this thing lifted off. And there's going to be more force on the front angle of this at speed than underneath that's going to cause this thing to be pushed down. Granted, I haven't done that aerodynamic calculation, but I don't think I need to. Plus, this vehicle here is probably not really going to get much over 65 miles an hour anyways. So we do one more measurement, check that out before I drill my holes, because then I'm just going to replicate the holes across both these boxes, drill all these holes into boxes, get the slides mounted into the boxes by opening the door and get the nuts in there. And then once I have that and the slides mounted, now I can lift this thing up with my hoist up there, back the truck out so that it's lined up where the hoist can lower the box down. I'll have to obviously tie the box up to the hoist. That's a whole other challenge that I have to run across since I sold off most of my climbing gear. So I don't have a lot of climbing gear and slings and stuff anymore. So anyways, I've got to figure out how to rig this thing up safely and then lower it down with the slides all the way extended out, so the box, so that way I can actually mount the slides, because you can only access the holes in the slides when they're extended out. And then I have to go just get those boxes lined up so they're parallel with each other and parallel with the roof rack and in the right place so they're not going to butt up against each other. Drill the holes through the filler plates that give me the extra 1/4 inch of height and extend back to mount my actuator mount, to then drill this through and get those mounted in there. So it's going to be a little bit tricky until really those first couple bolts get bolted in for the roof rack, and then that'll at least hold it in place and set the position for each of the slides. And then it's just a matter of just continuing the holes and drilling them through and bolting them through. And then once they're both bolted, everything should just slide right in and out, and then mount the rear of the actuator once the boxes are in place. So one more final measurement before getting these slides mounted. Whew. With that, plan one in action. Takes 2 people to do this, and putting a vacuum up there to clean up all the mess was definitely the right thing to do. We got them mounted up, and it went very well. Now let's take a look at them as we put some finishing touches on them. Handles on the front, and then of course testing out the actuators for the very first time. And it went exactly as planned, and really pretty great. The actuators do definitely stroke slower than I'd like, but overall functionally it works great. Okay, I'm going to retract the other one.
Unless it should stop parallel to this, I mean the faces of these two things. Dead on.
Dead on. And again, the way these work is that each one of these boxes can be extended out one at a time. And once extended out, then that side door, inner door, can actually be accessed to be able to open them up and get inside there to get to the goods. And all that can be done while standing up on this front roof rack. And then, of course, they can just be retracted back and they will hold them there. One of the other benefits is these can also be retracted out or extended out to protect the windshield during a hailstorm or a snowstorm or a big dust storm or something else like that, to keep it cleaner, and or also shaded during a long extended, stay in a hot area.
So this is beautiful because, look how much clearance you've got here to open this door.
Yeah, go ahead and try it. Let's just see how that looks. Oh, it looks great.
all the way to 90 degrees.
Oh my God,
Actually,
it's
90
perfect.
degrees to the handle.
Those plastic handles are perfect for that, aren't they?
Yeah, they make a little bump stop.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
It's really good. So overall, this is another portion of this big DIY expedition camper build project that actually has come together. This was always intent to have some sort of aerodynamic fairing on the cab roof to be able to give the cab certainly a much more aerodynamic profile, and of course take advantage of that space behind the aerodynamic fairing for more storage and storage for lightweight things, down jackets, sleeping bags, or even lightweight luggage or things like that you just don't need all the time, but can go up there for at least a good portion and get a lot more storage space. So I'm really happy with this. It's worked out great. It also has a lot more functionality and easy, safe access into that box. Yep. Awesome. Ready to go in?
Yep.
So again, overall, I'm really happy about this project being done as part of this bigger overall DIY expedition camper build. There are a couple things I need to change or evolve a little bit on this. The latches on these boxes as they came are just really quite poor quality, and they don't really pull in those doors tightly, and so I get to replace those and adjust them a little bit better so they pull in those doors tightly, but the boxes don't rub, and the seals do seal up perfectly fine, so this thing's weather tight. It does add some weight to the cab roof, so I have another thing that I developed to actually help me lift the cab up or rotate it forward in order to access the engine, but overall it's done. I'll share that in a future video here coming up, along with many other really cool things that I've been doing to this camper, and I'll share those with you, and also some other tips and suggestions for you to help you with your DIY expedition camper build or some other similar project. Thanks so much for watching, subscribing, look forward to sharing more in future videos.